We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone.
I think there are really two fundamental paths. History is going to bifurcate along two directions. One path is we stay on Earth forever, and then there will be some eventual extinction event. I don't have an immediate doomsday prophecy, but eventually history suggests there will be some doomsday event. The alternative is to become a spacefaring civilization and a multi-planet species, which I hope you would agree that is the right way to go.
Atlas TU has gone to closed-loop control.
Greetings, Earthlings. This is Zarkon from the planet Mars, and we would like to welcome you to this live stream event called The Secrets of Mars. So if you would like to know more about the secrets of our planet, please watch this live stream event. Please like the Facebook page of this organization, the BEDAN Society of Young Astronomers. So sit back and relax and enjoy this live stream event.
Greetings. I am Professor Jun Cahigal, and I would like to welcome everybody to this virtual lecture entitled The Secrets of Mars. Now, this lecture is quite timely because of the recent launch by NASA of the Perseverance rover. And the Perseverance rover is on its way to Mars. One of its main objectives is to search for life outside our planet. So it's quite fitting that we study this very mysterious and intriguing planet called Mars. And as we study Mars, we shall also tackle this question: can we colonize the red planet? Because we all know that Mars is a pretty good candidate for the existence of life outside planet Earth. Now, Mars was named after the Roman god of war. The Greek counterpart of Mars is Ares. And our fascination with Mars can be traced way, way back during prehistoric times, wherein our ancestors have gazed upon the heavens. Now, since the dawn of time, our ancestors have gazed upon the stars, and they have wondered and they were fascinated about that red star in the night sky. Okay, when today, di ba, pag tumingala tayo sa taas, if we look up and if we see that red star, our assumption there is that that red star is Mars. Okay? Right, and until now, we are still fascinated with that as we look up in the night sky. Now, to further satisfy their desire to know more about the red planet, our ancestors, they built observatories, ancient observatories. And one good example of an ancient observatory was Stonehenge in the United Kingdom. Now, you will be fascinated with this observatory. Now, Stonehenge is not just an observatory, it is also a place of worship. So, what they did is using those stone slabs that they erected, they were able to calculate eclipses. They were able to predict also winter and summer solstice. And they used Stonehenge to come up with a primitive calendar. Those stones that they erected were aligned to certain stars. So isn't that fantastic? Okay, so that's Stonehenge. All right, another example of an ancient observatory was in Mexico, the so-called El Caracol. Okay, that's an ancient observatory in Mexico. Another example of an ancient observatory was in India, called the Hantar Mantar in India. Now, I would like to focus more on the contribution of the Greeks in the study of Mars. Now, I would like to focus on a particular person during the time of the ancient Greeks. So he's Claudius Ptolemy. Now, we know from history that Claudius Ptolemy came up with this model of the solar system, wherein he placed the Earth at the center of the solar system. And the planets, including the sun, okay, revolve around the central Earth. So we know that this is the so-called geocentric model of the universe. Geo meaning Earth, Earth-centered model of the universe or the solar system. So that was the contribution of Ptolemy. That was his model of the universe by placing the Earth at the center. And 5 visible planets, including our own sun, revolve around the central Earth. Alright, now, but Ptolemy had a big problem with his geocentric model. Now, Ptolemy cannot explain the unusual movement of Mars. Now, what is this movement of Mars and basically all the planets? Now, Mars and all the planets, they move around the sun in a direct eastward direction. So, if you will observe the planets in the night sky, they move from west to east. Okay? So, eastward direction. But Mars is quite unusual because there are times during the year that as Mars moves eastward, Mars would go back west. Then, it goes east again. Okay? Now, this unusual movement of Mars and all the planets as well is called retrograde motion. Now, Ptolemy cannot explain through his geocentric model the retrograde motion of the planets, especially Mars. Okay? So, how did Ptolemy solve the problem of retrograde motion of Mars and the planets? So, what Ptolemy did is he introduced the concept of epicycles. Now, everybody, kindly take a look at this diagram. So, that blue dot in our diagram represents planet Earth. Again, because of this is the geocentric model that I'm explaining. Then the red dot is Mars. So, as Mars moves around the Earth, Mars also moves in a circular path. Okay? So, as Mars moves around the Earth, because the Earth is at the center of the solar system, Mars also moves in a circular path. And that's how we explain the retrograde motion. So, in astronomy, we call this epicycles. So, Mars, and including the planets, as they revolve around the Earth, they also move in a circular path. Okay? So, what we call that epicycles, ladies and gentlemen. So, the inclusion of epicycles in the geocentric model of the solar system solve the problem of retrograde motion of Mars. And because of this, the introduction of the epicycles, the geocentric model of the solar system has become the standard model of the universe. Okay? So, the epicycles had solved the problem of retrograde motion. And because of this, the geocentric model became the standard model of the universe. Standard that means that even the Catholic Church accepted this model of the universe, of the solar system. So, ibig sabihin nito, pag kumontra ka, then there will be consequences. Okay, because the geocentric model is now the standard model of the universe, of the solar system. Okay? Then came Nicholas Copernicus. Now, Nicholas Copernicus had introduced another model of the universe, of the solar system, by placing the Earth around the sun. Okay, the Earth now orbits around the sun. The sun now is at the center of the universe. The sun is at the center of the solar system. And all the planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, they all revolve around the sun. And we know in history that this model of the universe of the solar system is known as the heliocentric model. Helio meaning sun, sun-centered universe, or the sun-centered theory of the solar system. Okay? And the heliocentric model was able to explain the retrograde motion of not only Mars, but the other planets as well. Okay? It's just a matter of the speed to which the planet revolves around the sun. Okay? So the heliocentric model helped explain retrograde motion of not only Mars, but all the planets as well. And what's the implication of this? Nicholas Copernicus never included the epicycles concept. Okay? He used the heliocentric model to explain retrograde motion without the epicycles concept that he introduced before. Okay? And we know now the concept, the implication of that. Kasi kinontra niya yung geocentric model. So, the books of Copernicus was banned. He was also excommunicated. Just like what happened to Galileo when he supported the Copernican model using his telescope. Okay? Alright. And came Tycho Brahe. Now, Tycho Brahe was a rich guy. And he constructed huge instruments for his naked eye observations. Okay? Brahe refined old instruments and built new ones. So yun ang ginawa niya. He made huge instruments for his naked eye observations. Now, Tycho Brahe was considered as the greatest of the naked eye astronomers. Wala pang telescope noon. Okay? And he spent the rest of his life assembling one of the largest bodies of astronomical data in human history. So he used those large instruments to collect astronomical data. Okay, which is one of the largest collection of astronomical data in human history. And he studied particularly Mars. Okay, using those huge instruments. So it was his observatory, and inside that observatory are his huge instruments. Like this one, this the quadrant. Malaki ito, yung quadrant na ito. To study the angular position of stars. Okay, here's also an illustration of his quadrant. Ayan, quadrant din yan. Marami siyang ginawang ganyan, malalaki. Quadrant. Okay? To determine the angular position of stars. Okay? So, those are some of his astronomical instruments. And using these instruments, he was able to amass a great deal of astronomical data, the largest collection of astronomical data in human history. Fantastic, isn't it? One of the greatest of the naked eye astronomers. And Tycho Brahe made accurate calculations using those instruments that he made. He calculated the position of Mars in the year 1576. Okay? So, Tycho Brahe made accurate calculations of the position of Mars in 1576. Okay. And we know also in history that Tycho Brahe also came up with his own model of the universe. Now, everybody kindly take a look at this illustration of the so-called Tychonian model of the universe. Now, you will notice that the Earth still is at the center. Okay? And the Sun revolves around the Earth. So parang geocentric model, right? But look at the sun. So revolving around the sun are the planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. So para siyang heliocentric. So the Earth still is at the center of the universe. The sun revolves around the Earth, but the planets, they revolve around the sun. So may pagka-heliocentric. So Tycho Brahe combined the geocentric and heliocentric models in his Tychonian model of the universe, of the solar system. Okay? Alright. And we have Johannes Kepler. Okay, now Johannes Kepler studied the motion of Mars. Okay, Mars motion is at the heart of his observations, and because of his fascination of Mars, he came up with the laws of planetary motion. Okay, so I'm sure you know the laws of planetary motion. The first law is that the planets revolve around the sun, not in a circular path, but they all revolve in an elliptical orbit, meaning oval. Okay, so at one point, a planet is close to the sun, and at one point, the planet is far from the sun, because the orbits of the planets are not in perfect circles, like what Copernicus had mentioned in his model, but all the planets, they revolve around the sun in an elliptical path. Okay? Right? And as the planet moves closer to the sun, the planet speeds up. And as the planet moves away from the sun, it slows down. Okay, so anyway, probably in future lectures, we will study more of these laws of planetary motion by Johannes Kepler. But his main focus really was the study of Mars. Okay, and also we have the contribution of Galileo Galilei. Okay, now we know that Galileo greatly improved on the newly invented telescope. But we know that Galileo did not invent the telescope. So the telescope was made by Hans Lippershey. Okay? And using his telescope, Galileo reported his observations, okay, of the planets to support the Copernican model. Okay, that was his telescope. So, and he pointed his telescope towards the night sky. Now, when Galileo pointed his telescope towards the night sky, he discovered the following. First, he discovered the 4 largest moons of Jupiter. Now, we know Jupiter is orbited by 64 plus moons, but Galileo saw the 4 largest moons of Jupiter. And we know that's Europa, Ganymede, Io, and Callisto. Okay. Galileo also saw the rings of Saturn, but he thought that Saturn has rabbit's ears. Hindi naman niya nakita na parang rings yan. But he saw for the first time the rings of Saturn. Okay, Galileo also pointed his telescope towards the moon. Because before, the people thought that the moon was a shiny crystal ball. But when Galileo pointed his telescope towards the moon, Galileo saw craters, he saw mountains, he saw plains, just like here on Earth. So the moon was not smooth. Okay, but the moon was made of craters and mountains, just like here on Earth. And also, Galileo pointed his telescope towards the sun without any filter. And Galileo saw sunspots. Okay? Alright, ladies and gentlemen, look at his drawings of sunspots. This was in June of 1612. But unfortunately, because his telescope was not equipped with a filter, walang filter yung telescope niya, his eyes got damaged by observing the sun. Okay, so though that's his drawings of the sunspots. Okay, and Galileo also pointed his telescope towards Venus. Now he noticed that Venus exhibits phases, parang buwan. So Venus changes shape. So you have crescent Venus, quarter Venus, okay, full Venus, just like the moon. So what's the implication of that? So that means only one thing, that Venus revolves around the sun. And his observations of Venus supported the Copernican model of the solar system. Okay? Right, then also we have the contribution of Christian Huygens. Now, in 1659, Christian Huygens discovered a strange feature on the surface of Mars. And later, this was called Syrtis Major. Okay, Christian Huygens was also fascinated with the planet Mars. And that feature on the red planet was named Syrtis Major. That was his discovery. Okay, so this was his drawing of Mars, and that darkened region of his drawing was named Syrtis Major. Okay, so above are his drawings of Mars, and below are the actual pictures of Syrtis Major. Okay, so that was Christian Huygens. He discovered that region of Mars called Syrtis Major. Then we have Giovanni Cassini. Okay, so I'm sure you are familiar with his name. You associate the name Cassini with what? With Saturn. Okay? Alright, but Giovanni Cassini also was fascinated with Mars, but his name was associated with Saturn because of the so-called Cassini division in the rings of Saturn. Okay, so when we speak of Cassini, we think of Saturn because of the Cassini division. But Cassini also was fascinated with Mars. And in 1666, Giovanni Cassini observes Mars and determines that the rotational period of Mars, that means one day on Mars, is 24 hours and 40 minutes. Okay? He was able to determine its rotational period. So that means one day on Mars is 24 hours and 40 minutes. Similar to Earth. Eh, di ba? One day here on Earth is 24 hours. Ito sobra lang ng 40 minutes. So the rotational period of Mars is 24 hours and 40 minutes. Like here on Earth, similar to Earth. Fantastic, isn't it? So that was the contribution of Giovanni Cassini and his fascination of the planet Mars. Okay, then we have Giovanni Schiaparelli. Now, Giovanni Schiaparelli was really fascinated with Mars. And public fascination with Martians began in the late 19th century when, in 1887, Giovanni Schiaparelli reported observations of large canals on Mars. So, while observing through his telescope, Schiaparelli was able to observe what? Features on the red planet which he associated with canals. And we know for a fact that canals, but here on Earth, most of the canals here are man-made. So that led to the fascination of Martians. Diba? Okay, so These are the drawings of Schiaparelli of Mars with those canals that he observed. Okay, and he was able to draw those Martian pictures, which he thought were canals. Okay, and these canals, according to him, was constructed by Martians. So that led to the public fascination of Martians. So yung mga Martians daw silang gumawa ng canals doon, was discovered by Schiaparelli. Okay, then came Percival Lowell. Now, we associate Percival Lowell with Pluto, right? Because he predicted the existence of another heavenly body beyond the orbit of Neptune. Okay, but Pluto was discovered by Clyde Tombaugh, but Percival Lowell predicted the existence of another heavenly body beyond the orbit of Neptune. Kaya nga diba Pluto, the first two letters of Pluto, P and L, is actually the initials of Percival Lowell. But Percival Lowell was fascinated with Mars. Ayan, so Pluto. Okay, the prediction of the existence of Pluto was contributed to Percival Lowell. So we know for a fact that Percival Lowell was really fascinated with Mars, and he constructed this observatory. Okay, this observatory, the Lowell Observatory, was used for the exploration of Mars. Now, Percival Lowell seriously countenanced the possibility of advanced life forms, and he described it in his book, Mars as an Abode of Life. Okay? So, just like Schiaparelli, Percival Lowell was in the idea of Mars inhabited by little green men, okay, by life. Okay, so there's life on the red planet according to Percival Lowell, influenced by Schiaparelli. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so at this point, let us now tackle how our fascination of Mars had influenced even our pop culture. And Warner Brothers came up with this Martian character. I'm sure you're familiar with some of the cartoons of Warner Brothers like Bugs Bunny, Porky Pig, or Daffy Duck. Now, Warner Brothers came up with this Martian character named Marvin. So, we know him as Marvin the Martian. Okay? Alright. And in 1938, there was a radio broadcast entitled War of the Worlds. A War of the Worlds scared millions of listeners into believing that tentacled Martian creatures had landed on Earth in their war machines. Okay, so we call those war machines tripods. In fact, there was a remake of this 1930s radio broadcast. They made it into a movie starring Tom Cruise. Okay, War of the Worlds. Alright. Also, there was a movie entitled Mars Attacks. Ayan, napanood ko to. Maganda ito. So, we have here Martians invading planet Earth. Ayan, and they started to kill millions of Earthlings. Yeah, that's Mars Attacks. Including the President of the United States. Ayan, Mars Attacks. Okay. Then, there's a TV series entitled My Favorite Martian. Okay, ito, maganda rin to. Napanood ko to noon when I was a kid. So, a Martian crash-landed on Earth and this Martian met this guy. Ayan. He's a Bill Bixby. Si Bill Bixby, ito yung si David Bruce Banner, the first Incredible Hulk. And Bill Bixby. Okay, so that's my favorite Martian. Ito, may tumatas mga na antena do sa ulo niya. Okay, so hilarious, but one of my favorite TV series when I was a kid. My favorite Martian. Alright, eto din. Another TV series about Mars. Okay, Thunderbirds Argo, the Zero X Destination Mars. So, the spacecraft actually went to Mars. Pero ibang klase tong spacecraft na to. Para tong eroplano. So, it took off like an airplane. It also landed as an airplane. Parang space shuttle. Galing. And the characters are marionettes. Yan. Hindi tao. Mga puppets yan. Mga marionettes. Fascinating. It really inspired me to study the sciences because of watching all of these sci-fi TV series. Right? That's Zero X. Yan, nagpunta sila sa Mars. Okay, Destination Mars. Galing. Yan yung Mars lander nila. It separated from the mothership and they landed on Mars. Yun. Fascinating. Yan. And they encountered Martian creatures doon while they were exploring the red planet. Okay, another movie about Mars is Total Recall starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay, so the setting was on the planet Mars. Yan, maganda rin tong movie na to. Okay, there was a Mars colony nun. Okay, pero ano to it's a combination of sci-fi, mystery, politics. Yan, it's Total Recall. Another movie about Mars is Escape from Mars. So we have here astronauts. Yung spaceship nila, ang pangalan ay Sagan. Okay, and they established a Mars colony. Yan, and one of them died. Yun, nilibing nila yung kasama nilang astronaut. Alright. Also, this is one of my favorite movies about Mars. The Martian. Yan. Okay. And favorite ko din ito. So, they explored Mars, pero naiwanan. Diba? Na-stranded siya sa Mars. And the astronaut has to survive alone on the red planet. Okay? So that's Martian. And because of his limited food supply, nagtanim. So he made use of his botany skills in order to survive. Nagtanim siya sa Mars. Okay, that's The Martian. And another movie is Space Between Us. So ito, may mga astronauts, may babaeng astronaut, buntis pala siya. So, nanganak siya sa Mars. Okay, now because of the gravity on Mars is less as compared to on Earth. There were some biological changes in the body of the boy. Tapos nakahanap siya ng kachat. Diba, kachatmate dito sa Earth. So gusto niya bumalik dito sa Earth. Okay, so that's Space Between Us. Alright, now aside from entertainment, our fascination of Mars also had influenced the food industry. So, di ba may chocolate na ang pangalan ay Mars. Okay. So, I'm sure you have, in one time of your life, you have tasted that chocolate, Mars. Okay. Sa entertainment, meron din. Mga singers like Bruno Mars. Alright? And hotels. Okay, may hotel na ang pangalan ay Red Planet. Red Planet Hotel. Right, so meron yan sa Macapagal Avenue, Macapagal Boulevard. Meron yan, Red Planet Hotel. Now, why do we need to explore Mars? Now, there are several reasons why the exploration of Mars is essential for mankind. Now, one reason why we need to explore Mars is for us to better understand planets in our solar system and to better understand also how the solar system was formed. Now, another reason why we need to explore Mars is for mankind to better understand the likelihood of planets around other stars, and also to establish in the future another home for mankind. Okay? Another reason why we need to explore Mars because by destiny we are explorers. Our history tells us that we are explorers, to boldly go where no man has gone before. And to answer the question, is there life beyond Earth? Okay. Now, beyond Earth, Mars is the only or one of the only places in the solar system where humans could one day live. So these are the reasons why we need to explore the red planet. Beyond Earth, Mars is one of the only places in the solar system where humans could one day live. So one day we can colonize the red planet. Now at this point, let us now study some facts about Mars. Now, Mars is the fourth planet from the Sun, and with regards to the size of Mars, Mars is about one half of the Earth's diameter. The Earth's diameter is about 7,000 plus miles compared to Mars, which is about 4,220 miles in diameter. So Mars is about one half of the Earth's diameter. And in terms of volume, it would take more than 6 of Mars to fill the volume of the Earth. Fantastic, isn't it? Okay, so that's Earth compared to Mars. Alright, so Mars is about one half of the Earth's diameter. So, maliit lang ang Mars. Maliit lang siya. Okay, Mars has about 1/10 of the mass of the Earth. So everybody look at this diagram. So mas massive pa yung Earth compared to Mars. Alright, and that is translated to its gravitational pull. The lesser the mass, the less is the gravitational pull. So if you're on Mars, you would experience 62.5% less gravity than you're used to here on Earth. So kung dito sa Earth, little hops ka lang, pag nasa Mars kayo, you can do kangaroo hops on the red planet because Mars has less gravitational pull compared to the gravity here on Earth. So on Mars, you would experience 62.5% less gravity than you're used to here on Earth. Okay? And what about weight? So if you weigh, let's say, 100 pounds here on Earth, you would weigh only 38 pounds on Mars. See? Fantastic. So kung gusto niyo magbawas ng timbang, wag na kayo mag-exercise. Punta na lang kayo sa Mars. Okay, Mars has a less gravitational pull, so you would weigh less on the red planet. Okay? So yung mga netizens diyan na gustong magbawas ng timbang, yan, wag na kayo mag-exercise. Punta na lang kayo sa Mars. You would weigh less on Mars. Okay? Alright, what about the year? So here on Earth, 1 year is 365 days. On Mars, doble, 687 days. Okay? So a year on Mars is almost twice as long as a year on Earth. Fantastic, isn't it? Okay. And the rotational period, as discovered by Cassini, remember si Cassini? So 1 day on Mars is about 24 hours and 40 minutes. So very similar to Earth. Diba? Here on Earth, 1 day is 24 hours. Sa Mars, sobra lang ng 40 minutes. Okay? Fantastic, isn't it? And look at the tilt of the Martian axis. Okay? Axis is tilted by about 20, 25, 26 degrees. Okay? Here on Earth, the Earth's axis is tilted by 23.5 degrees. Sa Mars, around 25 or 26 degrees tilt of its axis. So, the tilt of the Martian axis is similar to Earth. Okay, so what does that mean? So, the tilt of our axis would lead to the seasons. That's why we have seasons here on Earth because of the tilt of our axis. So, if the Martian axis is tilted by 25 degrees, so anong ibig sabihin nun? Mars also has seasons. Okay? Amazing, isn't it? So, the Martian seasons is similar to Earth. Okay, but we can observe seasonal changes on Mars by the growth and shrinking of the polar ice caps. Okay? So, doon natin malalaman that there are seasonal changes on the planet Mars by the growth and shrinking of the polar ice caps. So, pag malaki yung polar ice caps, that means Martian winter yan. Pag maliit yung polar ice caps, yan, Martian summer. Okay? Ayan. So, and the temperature of Mars, malamig. Malamig sa Mars. Okay, that's why Mars is often called as the frozen desert. Anyway, we'll explain that later. So, yung temperature ng Mars parang nasa South Pole. Malamig talaga sa Mars. Okay? What about the atmosphere? Now, the Martian atmosphere is very thin. Only 1% of pressure as compared to the Earth's atmosphere. And the Martian atmosphere is composed of 95% carbon dioxide. Okay? So very similar to Venus because the Venusian atmosphere is also made up mostly of carbon dioxide. But on Venus, because of the very thick atmosphere, Venus experiences a runaway greenhouse effect. Pero sa Mars, wala because the Martian atmosphere is thin and there is no runaway greenhouse effect. Okay? So, that's the Martian atmosphere. Manipis ang atmosphere ng Mars. Only 1% pressure as compared to Earth. Okay? So, that's the Martian atmosphere. The Martian atmosphere is composed mostly of carbon dioxide as compared to Earth. Okay, here on Earth, the atmosphere is mostly nitrogen. Okay, then followed by oxygen. And 0.03% is carbon dioxide. Okay, so that's the composition of the Martian atmosphere. The Martian atmosphere is composed mostly of carbon dioxide. That's about 95.3% compared to Earth. The carbon dioxide levels here on Earth is about 0.03%. Okay, all right. So, this picture, we have the Curiosity rover. And on the Martian surface, even though the Martian atmosphere is thin, there are occasional dust storms on the Martian surface. So, kahit manipis yung atmosphere, maano pa rin. Very turbulent, violent. May mga dust storms sa Mars. Mars dust storms can kick up fine particles in the atmosphere around which clouds can form. These clouds can form very high, up to 100 kilometers above the planet. Okay, so hindi naman talaga water vapor yung clouds, but it's mostly dust particles. Okay, all right, so that's the atmosphere of Mars. And also, this was taken by the Curiosity rover. Kakaiba yung sunset sa Mars. So, pag lumulubog yung araw sa Mars, blue yung sky. Okay, as compared here on Earth. Kasi pag lumubog yung araw dito sa Earth, pula. Diba? So, ironic. Diba? Dapat pula yung sunset sa Mars kasi nga red planet. Okay, bakit ang sunset sa Mars, blue yung sky? Unlike here on Earth, ang sunset sa Earth, red yung sky. Okay? So, NASA's Curiosity rover recorded this sequence of views of the sun setting that was taken on April 15, 2015. It was taken from the rover's location in Gale Crater. So kakaiba ito. Bakit pag sunset sa Mars, blue yung sky? Pero dito sa Earth, pag naglumubog yung araw, pag sunset sa Earth, red yung sky. Now, NASA has an explanation for that. So NASA explains that the reason for the bluish atmosphere during the Martian sunset is that that's due to the high quantities of dust particles in the Martian atmosphere. Blue light is able to pass through the atmosphere far more effectively than any of the colors, and that would explain why the landscape has a bluish tinge. So, yun yung explanation ng NASA on why Mars has a bluish sunset. Again, because of the dust particles suspended in the atmosphere. Okay, now what about the Martian terrain? Now, these photos were taken by the Viking space probe. And you will notice that the Martian terrain resembles that of deserts here on Earth. Malamig sa Mars. That's why we can call the Martian terrain as a frozen desert. Okay? Ayan. And you will notice that the Martian soil is red. Kaya tinawag na red planet eh. So, the Martian soil has iron oxide. Kalawang yung lupa that contributes to the reddish color of the Martian surface. Okay? Most of the oxygen is contained in iron oxides in the rocks. Pero very minimal ang oxygen sa Mars. The Martian atmosphere is mostly carbon dioxide. Okay? Ayan. So kaya pula yung soil sa Mars because of these iron oxide or rust. Lawang. Okay? Alright, so these are some photos taken by the Viking space probe. Okay, dalawa yung Viking. Viking 1 and Viking 2. So look at the Martian terrain. Talagang parang desert, parang Death Valley in the United States. Okay, so that little rover, that's Pathfinder. And this is a panoramic photograph taken by the Viking space probe. So mabato. Talagang parang desierto. Okay, look at this photos. So, you have there the Martian terrain and compare that to Death Valley here on Earth. Death Valley is in the United States. So, halos pareho, di ba? Kaya nga doon nagpa-practice yung mga future astronauts on a mission to Mars. Doon sila nagpa-practice sa Death Valley because the Death Valley resembles the Martian terrain. Okay, so let's talk about now the geology of Mars. Now, Mars has volcanoes, valleys, and impact craters, just like here on Earth. And Mars has the largest volcano in the solar system. The largest volcano on Mars and the largest in the solar system is Olympus Mons, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so here is Olympus Mons, and Olympus Mons is the largest of all volcanoes in the solar system. It is even 3 times higher than Mount Everest. Okay, look at Mount Everest and compare that to Olympus Mons. So, ang laki. Grabe, what immensity Olympus Mons is compared to Mount Everest. So, walang sinabi ang Mount Everest compared to Olympus Mons. Mount Everest is 5 miles high compared to Olympus Mons, which is 15 miles high. And look at the crater. The crater is 45 miles wide. Fantastic! Grabe, ang laki ng Olympus Mons. Okay, Mars also has the largest canyon system in the solar system. Okay, and that's Valles Marineris. Valles Marineris is the so-called Grand Canyon of Mars and of the solar system. Valles Marineris is the largest known canyon, surpassing all canyons here on Earth. Okay. So, ganyan kalaki po ang Valles Marineris. Valles Marineris extends from California to New York in the United States. Ganon kalaki ang Valles Marineris. See? It extends from California to New York. And compared to our Grand Canyon, Grand Canyon here on Earth is 18 miles wide and a mile deep compared to Valles Marineris, which is 150 miles wide and 4 miles deep. Grabe, ang laki. Ang lapad ng Valles Marineris. Okay, so these are photographs taken in orbit. So that's Valles Marineris, Grand Canyon of Mars. Okay, Mars has the largest visible impact crater in the solar system. Okay, and that is Hellas Planitia. Hellas Planitia is considered the largest visible impact crater known in the solar system. Yan, look at Hellas Planitia. Compared to the size of the United States, ang laki. Okay? And water once flowed on Mars. Can you believe that? Water once flowed on the Martian surface. And that is manifested by the discovery of canals and tributaries. Pero iba itong mga canals na na-discover ni Schiaparelli, iba yun. Ito talaga, these are geologic features of the Martian surface. Okay? But at present, we haven't discovered liquid water yet because we know that water will solidify on the Martian surface. Kasi nga, malamig, di ba? Malamig sa Mars. So, no liquid water on the surface. Okay? And besides, the pressure is very thin. Manipis na yung atmosphere ng Mars. So, water will simply vaporize because of the low pressure. Okay? But there is evidence that liquid water once flowed in the past. So, there are canals. Yan, ito yung mga canals and tributaries. And these canals may have been carved by running water. Right? Fantastic! Isn't it? Ayan, no? Kitang-kita yun. Yung mga tributaries, mga dried up riverbeds. So, these are evidence that water once flowed on the Martian surface. So these canals may have been carved by running water. So kung ganun, if there's evidence that water once flowed on Mars, nasan ngayon yung tubig? Where is now the water on Mars? Okay? So astronomers now believe that the water is contained in the polar ice caps. So the polar ice caps of Mars contain mostly carbon dioxide ice or dry ice, and it may also contain solidified water, ice water. Okay, so that's where now the water is on Mars. It is locked in the polar ice caps. Okay, if all the water ice would melt, an ocean of 11 meters deep would cover the entire planet. Okay, so those are the polar ice caps of Mars. What about some odd Martian geologic features? So, ito, very famous ito. This was taken in 1976 by Viking. Yan yung the face of Mars. Ito. Yan, di ba? Parang may alien civilization. Okay? Alright, so that's the face of Mars. Pero ano lang pala ito? They discovered that it's just a usual geologic picture. Parang hill lang yan. Okay? And NASA's Curiosity rover was able to photograph this unusual structure. Parang pyramid. Can you see that? Di ba? Parang pyramid. Parang may alien civilization na gumawa ng pyramid na yan. But studies would show that those are actually rocks, volcanic rocks. Kasi yung mga rocks sa Mars, medyo sharp siya. Okay? Alright, so sharp, angular yung cleavage ng mga rocks. So mukha lang siyang pyramid. Right, now Mars is orbited by 2 moons. Okay, so we have Phobos, that's the larger moon, and Deimos, the smaller moon. Okay, so that's Phobos and Deimos. Phobos is unusual because Phobos revolves around Mars 3 times in a day. Mabilis yung revolution ng Phobos around Mars. So you can see Phobos 3 times in a day. Okay? Alright, so that's Phobos and Deimos. And they're odd, hindi sila bilog. Diba? Parang potato-shaped moon sila. And many astronomers believe that Phobos and Deimos may have been captured asteroids because Mars is near the asteroid belt. Okay? Alright, so nagkaroon din ng eclipse sa Mars. So this is a photo taken by the Opportunity rover. Yan yung eclipse ng Deimos, March 4, 2004, and a partial eclipse ng Phobos, March 7 of 2004. So, hindi lang dito sa Earth nakikita yung eclipse, pati sa Mars may eclipse din.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone.
I think there are really two fundamental paths. History is going to bifurcate along two directions. One path is we stay on Earth forever, and then there will be some eventual extinction event. I don't have an immediate doomsday prophecy, but eventually history suggests there will be some doomsday event. The alternative is to become a spacefaring civilization and a multi-planet species, which I hope you would agree that is the right way to go.
Atlas TU has gone to closed loop control.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. And again, I would like to welcome all of you, those who are watching to this teaching live stream event entitled The Secrets of Mars. This is only part one. Now, let's try to review what we have studied so far in this live stream event. So, if you will recall, I have mentioned some of the astronomers who contributed to the study of Mars. So we started with the prehistoric civilizations, okay, like a prehistoric men who made Stonehenge, then the Caracol in Mexico. Okay, then we have the Greeks who contributed to the study of Mars. Okay, then after we have studied those early astronomers, we also tackled the man's fascination of the red planet. So Mars had influenced many of our um, living, like movies, food industry. Ayan, so malaking impluensya po ng Mars sa buhay natin. Okay? That's why the title of this teaching live stream event is Man's Fascination of Mars. Okay? And bakit kaya tayo fascinated sa Mars? Again, Mars is one of the few members of the solar system that is capable of supporting life. Diba po, we mentioned that in the video kanina, that Mars, the Martian atmosphere is mostly carbon dioxide, and there is a possibility that water once flowed on the Martian surface because of those geologic features that resembled canals. And these canals may have been carved by running water. Okay? So, ang tatanungin natin, nasa na po yung tubig? Okay, so water may have been locked in the polar ice caps. Okay, and probably water may have been locked underground. So, yun po yung isa sa mga um, objectives ng Perseverance rover. Now, inside Perseverance rover is a special equipment called RIMFAX. Okay, RIMFAX. So, parang ano siya, ground penetrating radar. So that once Perseverance lands on the Martian surface, then pag na-activate po yung RIMFAX, then hopefully we can find water underneath the Martian surface. Okay, anyway, we will have a detailed discussion of the Perseverance rover in part 2. Okay? So, subaybayan po ninyo. We will have part 2 of The Secrets of Mars, entitled Man's Exploration of the Red Planet. Okay? So, are you not excited with that, ladies and gentlemen? So, we will have part 2 next Saturday. The Secrets of Mars, Man's Exploration of the Red Planet. Okay, so before we move on, sagutin ko po itong tanong ni Nitin Reddy. So, I hope you're still listening, Nitin Reddy. Okay? So, ang tanong niya is, the ice on Mars is real. Okay? So, I mean, solid state of water is real. Okay? Now, as I have mentioned a while ago, the Martian temperature is really cold. So, talagang parang ano siya, yung temperature ng Mars parang nasa Antarctica. And mas malamig pa po sa Antarctica, and liquid water cannot exist on Mars. Hindi pwedeng liquid yung tubig doon. So obviously, liquid will exist in solid form sa Mars. And in the polar ice caps, nabanggit po natin yung polar ice caps. The polar ice cap of Mars is composed mostly of carbon dioxide ice. or dry ice po. And it may also contain water. Okay? So, pag minelt natin yung polar ice caps, the Martian surface would be covered with water at least 30 feet deep. So, yun. Hopefully, pag dumating po yung Perseverance rover next year, so the Perseverance rover will travel onto the red planet. It's on its way. So magbibilang po tayo ng 7 months. It would take 7 months for the Perseverance rover to make its journey to Mars. So magbilang tayo, July, nag-launch ang Perseverance rover. So I think by February, the Perseverance rover will be able to reach the red planet. Ayan. So, yung mga instruments sa Perseverance rover like RIMFAX, hopefully we can detect the presence of water. And pag may water, there might be microbial life because the search for life outside planet Earth is the search for water, di ba? Okay. So, maraming salamat, Mr. Nitin Reddy, for watching this live stream event. So kaya po namin ginagawa ito, we would like to contribute to the education of the youth kasi ang astronomy po kasi part ng curriculum yan ng senior high school. It's kinukuha yan ng mga grade 11 earth science classes. So hopefully with this live stream event we can contribute to the continued education of our youth. Okay? So, I invite the students out there, especially yung mga senior high school students, especially the grade 11 to please watch our live streams. May mga recorded po na kami on Facebook, YouTube, and we will have more of these live stream events in the near future, like this coming Saturday. So this coming Saturday, watch for it. The Secrets of Mars, Man's Exploration of the Red Planet. Okay? All right. So thank you, Mr. Nitin Reddy. And maraming salamat din po sa mga nag-shout out, yung mga nakinig po ngayong gabi. Maraming salamat po. Hindi ko na kailangan po banggitin. Marami po kayo dyan. So thank you po for listening. And again, please watch our live stream event next Saturday on the Secrets of Mars, Man's Exploration of the Red Planet. So, in behalf of the officers and crew of the BEDAN Society of Young Astronomers, so meron na po silang officers for this school year 2020-2021. This will be a very challenging school year ahead. Kasi wala pa po tayong face-to-face classes. So everything will be done virtually. So lectures, even telescope viewings po. So watch out for that. We will have our virtual telescope viewings this school year. Okay, so in behalf of the officers and crew of the BEDAN Society of Young Astronomers and the administrators of San Beda Senior High School Department, alam kong nakikinig po kayo ngayon, ang ating mga mahal na administrators. Maraming salamat po for the continued support of BSYA. So this is Jun Kahigal saying, live long and prosper. And I will see you next Saturday for The Secret of Mars, Man's Exploration of the Red Planet. Stay safe, everybody, and good night.